You're listening to Range Minded from Independence Indoor Shooting. Before we start, I want to remind you that we're now on iTunes and Stitcher, so please subscribe to us. That way you'll get the newest episodes of Range Minded as soon as we release them. This is episode 14, where we celebrate our namesake, Independence Day, by talking, bumbling through the history of firearms used by our American servicemen since the Revolutionary War. Now, we don't go through every single firearm, and there's about a 100% chance that we get some facts mixed up or miss a couple of things, but we hope that if nothing else, it generates some curiosity in you about the long and interesting history of American firearms. One more note is that we do get into some of our own opinions at the end, and please remember, our opinions are only our own and don't reflect the views of anyone or anything else. And hey, if you disagree with us, send us a note at podcasts@iishooting.com. We'll bring it up in another episode, or maybe bring you on and have a constructive discussion. Again, thanks for listening, and we hope you enjoy episode 14, the 4th of July, 2018. Hello, and welcome to Range Minded, episode number 14.
Wait, at 14?
It really should be episode 1776, but...
That's right, it should be.
We haven't made it that far.
No.
Yesterday was the 4th of July, so we're feeling patriotic a little bit more than normal.
Best holiday of the year.
It's Steve's favorite holiday, more than Christmas.
It is. Maybe that's a bad thing, but I really enjoy the 4th of July.
I don't think that's a bad thing.
Ricky Kasner, Steve Zimmerman, and myself, Mark Long, here at Independence Indoor Shooting. Mm-hmm. And we're going to talk about the 4th of July a little bit, get into some American history, the history of American arms in our 250-plus year history. Maybe dive into what the Second Amendment kind of means to us a little bit, and just freedom in general. The freedoms that we enjoy every day.
America.
Because I think on the 4th of July, you do kind of... most people, I think, stop and think about...
I hope so.
What everything means, you know?
Yeah, for me, it's kind of almost feels like a rebirth of... I think about everybody that sacrificed from the beginning up to our modern war heroes. And I'm the guy like at the parades, and I get funny looks. Like in Eastern Idaho, if you guys spent time in Eastern Idaho, there's a little town of Manan, and we go to the Manan parade, which is awesome because it's a little tiny town. And you'd get the veterans that they have their float, and everybody's really quiet and somber. I'm up there cheering, like thank you, clapping and telling them thank you. And all these people would look at me like, "What's wrong with you?" I'm like, why not? Why not stand and cheer for these guys?
Yeah, they deserve it.
Yeah, so I'm the weirdo at the parade that does that.
I think they got cheered at the Boise parade. I don't think there was any kind of somber silence.
I didn't understand why sit back and be like and not be grateful.
Yeah,
I'm weird, I guess.
Well, it's kind of like there's a time and place for both, I think. Mm-hmm. This was a couple of years ago. We went to Washington D.C. and went to the cemetery there, Arlington National Cemetery.
The Forgotten Soldier or something like that.
Yeah, the Unknown Soldiers. There's 3 of them, I want to say. And we were actually lucky enough, timing-wise, to see the changing of the guard.
Oh, right on.
And that was something that you do, stay silent and respectful for.
Oh, absolutely.
And what's interesting is they'll actually, the guards and stuff will actually yell at you. Like they'll say, please maintain silence. They don't yell at one single person, but they will kick you out too if your cell phone goes off or you're being disrespectful or anything like that. They don't mess around with that.
Well, that is one of the most prestigious positions in the military.
Yeah,
to have to be chosen to guard the grave or the tomb of the unknown soldiers.
Yeah, and they almost look like machines with how precise they are with their movements and the counting of the movements and just how everything goes. It's very cool to see. So, but then there's a parade where it is a cause for celebration. You'd think that you'd want to cheer and honor those kind of folks. So, but that's interesting.
Yeah.
We had a parade here in Boise. I think in Meridian too had one. Everybody kind of has their parade.
Yeah, we didn't get to go. We were open yesterday, which isn't a bad thing. I don't mind being open.
You guys were open a lot longer than I thought you would be.
We kicked people out a little after 4 o'clock into being about 4:30.
It was supposed to be 2.
It's 4 o'clock.
It would make sense, though. A lot of people coming to exercise their Second Amendment rights.
Yeah.
It's part of the American history.
If you were trying to get in, we had a gentleman call. It was like 20 after 4. Hey, how late are you open? We closed almost a half an hour ago. Oh, okay.
Bummer. Yeah, so what'd you guys do for the 4th of July?
Well, my family we went on a bike ride first, and then we just saw people starting to light off fireworks about 7:50.
Are your kids? Do they like fireworks? Are they okay?
Yeah, and my dog does too.
Really?
Yeah.
Your dog likes fireworks?
Yeah, because I raised him with a shotgun, like because he's a hunting dog. So
So he's used to the noise and the concussion and everything.
he gets excited when he hears all that.
He thinks
stuff.
it's time to go hunting.
He actually ran up to the fireworks. So
Good dog.
yeah.
Smartest dog ever.
So, but yeah, my girls, they like it. And so we went just to our neighborhood, barbecue, fireworks. It was a fun time.
Nice.
It's nice being able to be. I like the big ones, the big fireworks, because it's just like your chest. You could just feel it, boom, in your chest. But the little fireworks, you're up close. You're able to be part of a community feeling. So I like that.
Very
That's
cool.
good that we still live in a state where
You can do
you
that.
can enjoy that.
Yeah.
Can light off fireworks.
Well, and have a community.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Enjoy the community part of it.
Yep.
Steve, what did you do?
Nothing. I went and got a hamburger.
That's American.
That's American.
Yeah, it was. And Dr. Pepper. Yeah. And then we came back and hung out at the store a little bit. We got up on the roof, don't tell OSHA, and watched fireworks.
You probably, I was just saying, you probably had a really good view, because the cool thing about this area is that each town does their own fireworks, so you can see almost a panoramic view of all the fireworks in town.
We could see Meridians, and they did a pretty good job. And then we were talking about off air, a lot of patriots have some extra spending money, and they buy some pretty cool fireworks.
You know what? This is just a thought off the top of my head. You guys were on the roof last night. Mm-hmm. Why don't we next 4th of July have our own firework show?
It's not going to be big enough.
The Independence Indoor Shooting Fireworks
Well,
Show.
a lot of these people like myself are going to these smaller fireworks shows. We could have a barbecue out in the parking lot.
Like an employee hangout time? Or
No, for customers.
Mm-hmm.
And they could park in that dirt lot over there, and
we could charge them.
we could charge them. Yeah. I think that'd
pay
be
for
cool.
the fireworks.
That would be awesome.
Oh, well, it might be something about is licensing and all that. Or not licensing. Yeah, I guess licensing.
But we could
for
be
liability.
We could be shooting stuff off of our roof.
No, I don't want to shoot fireworks off the roof. I'm pretty sure insurance wouldn't go for that.
Yeah. But anyway, still.
But it was fun last
That'd
night.
be
There was a
kinda
lot of booms all over the valley, and we could hear Boise. So we're a few miles away as the crow flies from Boise, but you could still
Those were
see
loud.
some flash and hear. But Meridian did a good job.
Yeah, and what's interesting, too, because the sun doesn't set till about 10:30 at night, people don't even start lighting fireworks off till, like the big ones, till 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah, I went home and it was still probably 2 o'clock in the morning. I ba-doom,
Yeah.
ba-doom. So
Really? That late?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I went to bed about 11 last night, and there were still percussions that you could hear, or concussions going off.
But I don't mind.
No.
So why do we do that?
Because it's America.
So we're celebrating the signing the publication of the Declaration of Independence, which I love that that's our name, the name of our range, Independence. So I think that's pretty cool. Of like you were saying, Steve, at least some, hopefully people are starting, at least on that day they're reflecting. And I get that feeling on Christmas a lot of love and community and giving. You get that spirit, you feel it. You just walk around and you feel this common spirit.
There's a vibe that's put out.
And I get that, I saw people, I wish this was more often, but I saw people driving around with their flags in the back of their car. And it's happy. It's a happy
It's kind of
feeling
like
for me seeing that.
It's kind of like September 12th was a totally different feeling for me in the United States, because everybody, there was no aisle, there was no left and right, there was American, and that was a good feeling, even though it took a pretty awful event to make it happen. But I guess that's why we do remember the 4th of July, because it was a pretty tremendous and terrible event that supplied us the freedoms that we have.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And now here we are, 250 years later.
Boom.
Still celebrating.
Heck yeah.
And yeah, I think at least for one day a year, I think on the 4th of July, politics are set aside. And
I hope so. Other than you had that group of people climbing the Statue of Liberty.
This year?
Yes.
Really?
Protesting immigration, so they climbed the Statue of Liberty and couldn't get down. on the outside.
I bet you they had to foot the bill for the helicopter to come get him off, too.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it didn't go too well for them the end of that day.
It's probably not the attention you want if you're protesting. I mean, I'm all for your right to protest.
Oh, absolutely.
But, yeah, climbing a national monument is probably not a good idea and also a felony.
Extremely dangerous.
Yeah.
That, too. Yeah, that, too.
I wouldn't want to climb the Statue of Liberty.
They only got to her feet. I mean, obviously, it's not like you're going to be climbing the entire outside of the copper statue.
I imagine them, like, holding onto her arms or something like that.
Yeah, like way up there on the crown, like you saw on X-Men, where...
Yeah. Yeah, it was silly.
Yeah. So, but it was a good fourth here.
Yeah. Yeah, the store was busy. It was good. We had a lot of people come in. It was chaotic.
Was it?
Yeah, but
I imagine.
Good. It was good. We had free gun rentals, so people were pew-pewing all morning.
That's a great way to exercise your rights right there.
Pewing.
Pew-pew. Yeah. So that was the fourth. Good podcast, everyone.
That's it. Well, that's a wrap.
Let's see. What did I do? I worked on my sprinkler system out in my backyard.
Oh, that's patriotic.
Yeah, sure was. Working on the homestead.
Did you have a flag while you were doing it?
No.
Were you waving a flag?
No.
No.
But it was actually pretty cool. I got to see a couple of planes fly by from...
Oh, I heard something fly over.
I heard jets.
Yeah, I heard jets fly. I saw two A-10s.
That's what I thought it was.
Warthogs flying in formation.
That's cool.
That was pretty cool.
Coolest airplane ever built.
The what?
Coolest plane ever built.
That thing is cool, especially seeing it flying, and those things are huge also.
They're still using those, which is pretty amazing, because those were built quite a while ago.
Yeah, they're 40, 50 years old.
Yeah.
But yeah, those things, that was cool to see kind of fly overhead. Heard a couple other jets, didn't see them. Obviously, those things are so fast that...
They were stealth.
Yeah, camouflaged. Yeah, did that. Funnily enough, we sat and watched National Treasure, which is a bizarrely patriotic movie because they go through a lot of different history, and although there's all this treasure hunting stuff or whatever.
But he stole the Declaration of Independence.
He stole the Declaration of Independence, but
to save the Declaration of Independence.
He had to do what was considered wrong in order to do the right thing.
What a dichotomy.
And it's Nicolas Cage, so he can get away with it.
What a dichotomy.
But you think about it, that is kind of and actually they draw the parallel in the movie where it's like the Founding Fathers. They did what was considered wrong. They were rebels to do the right thing.
My peeps.
So, an odd choice for a movie to watch in the middle of the afternoon, but strangely patriotic.
Well, here's a quick one. What is there any really other movie that's like super patriotic? Independence Day, where
Patriot.
the Patriot. Oh yeah, okay.
The Patriot, yeah. I haven't seen that in a long time, but that's a pretty good one.
That would probably be qualified.
That, and it depends on the war movie, I guess, but there probably aren't that many.
I don't know. Hamilton, I guess. I don't know. That's more of a docu-series. I don't know. I guess we'll go with the Patriot.
We'll go with the Patriot and National Treasure.
Everyone out there. Yeah.
That was a tangent. We got people listening like, you guys are stupid.
You're probably yelling like, there's this movie, this movie.
Yeah.
Why don't you email us your favorite patriotic movie at podcast@iishooting.com.
I need something to watch.
Speaking of which, we did get an email to bring... requesting to bring our instructors in.
Yes, and that'll be an awesome podcast.
That will be next week, hopefully, that we'll have Bill that talks about more of the advanced level training, what he likes to see.
Yeah, that was for our loyal friend and listener, Casey who suggested that. So thank you for being a listener and enjoying Range Minded. We will get them on as soon as we can. We just have to be flexible with their schedules as well, because we got to ask them to wake up at 6 in the morning. Yeah. So, which is it's a tall order.
Mm-hmm. But you get up at 6. I get up at like 5.
What do you do for 2 hours?
I try to get out of bed.
But the one thing we did want to talk about with relation to firearms is talk about the evolution of American arms from the Revolution onward, because there have been quite a few changes, and we may not cover every single change.
Oh yeah, I'm sure we'll make mistakes too.
So before you jump on us,
you'll be like, hey, you guys forgot this.
Yeah.
But something to think about is that when people say that there is no place for civilians to own military-style weapons, historically speaking,
they were required to.
And it's been the trend. And
Yeah.
citizens have followed what the military has used for the entirety of American history.
Sure. They were equal to the military at the time. And so why aren't we now?
Right.
Why can't I guess I can, but why do I not? Why have you not bought me an A10 Warthog yet?
I don't have multiples of millions of dollars.
Okay.
You could buy a nice used one.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Why not?
You can buy a
Steve?
Blackhawk.
Yeah, but you can for me.
Sure. Let me write a check.
Okay.
So we want to start at the very beginning, 1776, with the colloquially known Brown Bess.
Easy for you to say.
Which is what the British were using.
And that was the most prevalent rifle that they had.
Well,
or it wasn't even a rifle. I'm misspeaking. It was a musket. Because there was no rifling in the barrel. It was a smooth bore.
The rebels as well were running those, were they not?
Well, okay, so we just boned up on this a little bit more before the podcast, but actually the Kentucky long rifle, which was known as the Pennsylvania rifle, Kentucky rifle, was actually invented back in the 1700s. The Brown Bess was, what was that, 1720s, I think.
So it had been around for a while.
For a little while, yeah. And it's amazing how long guns lasted back then.
Oh, sure.
1700 to now you're still using it in the 1776.
75, 80 years later, they're still using the same firearms.
Yeah, technology didn't move much.
Yeah.
No, but the craftsmanship really was amazing, especially
beautiful.
considering you're doing this all by hand.
Well, and each gun was handmade, one at a time, little by little.
Unique. There were no machined parts. There were no
even
assembly line interchangeable parts. They were all done by hand, yeah.
when they built those muskets, they weren't always the exact same caliber, so it wasn't just like, hey, I gotta go buy some shot and ball done at the store. No, you got the cast with it, and everything was custom made for that gun.
Yeah, because I was reading they were talking about it was mainly about like 46 caliber or something like that. There wasn't a standard 9mm or 38 or 45. It varied from like 46 to 48 or like up even to 51 caliber, which is like so imprecise.
Yeah.
So you'd have to, you said you have to cast your own.
Well, and there were 32 cals for squirrel guns. Mm-hmm. And like Steve mentioned prior to this podcast is those things were long. I had in gunsmithing school, I had an instructor that loved building his own, like he'd machine his own barrel. He would, do the stock, everything. That was his gun, his Kentucky long rifle. And his
Not the kit, but he
made it.
From scratch, yeah.
Yeah, and his guns were beautiful, but they were long.
But they had to be that long because there was no rifling in the barrel.
Well, no, these ones were
did?
rifled, yeah. And
But back in the day, the super long muskets that they used in the 1700s were
smooth bore.
and so that round would bounce around and wouldn't spin. So it wasn't all that accurate. So you had to have the barrel as long as you could.
Yeah, and if you imagine paintballing or what do they do now? What's those little plastic
airsoft?
If you imagine that, you can see or have played that. You know what we're talking about when those shot would leave the barrel. They would go all over the place.
Yeah.
Yeah, like in paintball, like sometimes they arc or they spin one direction or veer off to the right or whatever.
Much like when I golf.
Chop and slice.
Yeah.
And what causes that is you think of the lead balls. Obviously, lead is pretty soft. Mm-hmm. You just probably cast it,
and there was no way to anneal any of that stuff, so it was super soft.
Super soft. And so when you're ramming it in with that ramrod, you're putting deformities on the front of that, which when it exits the barrel, even going down the barrel, it's rolling different ways, and when it hits the air is going to spin that a different way.
Resistance in a different way.
Yeah,
and the imperfections are going to make it travel in a different direction than straight through, whereas with a rifle barrel, that's where the spin comes from, and that's when something spins, it's going to go in a much straighter direction, just like a football.
Stabilizes. Mm-hmm. And another thing that they had during the Revolutionary War is they started getting into what they called the mini ball, which is a conical shaped bullet.
Yeah, it was pointed at the front, but also had a concave on the back that allowed it to seal to the riflings.
Yep.
And give it the spin.
Yeah. So as it heated up, the powder, so you basically had a concave back end nozzle, just much like our bullets that we have today, and you had that concave back end, and so when you shot the round, that bullet would flare out, expand, grab the sides of the gun, whereas prior to that, the round ball, you have a wad. But a mini ball, you didn't need a wad anymore because it would grab the sides. It wouldn't let the powder just leak out of the sides of the bullet, and then you also had grooves cut in the mini ball in the bullet itself, so that fouling would be taken out.
Yeah, there were like rims on the side of it, and we'll put a picture up on our website with this podcast so you can kind of see along what it is. And actually, did you know it's not actually spelled mini like M-I-N-I?
No, it's French.
It's M-I-N-I-E. It's Minet. I think it's Minet or Mini, which is named after the guy who invented the mini ball. He was a French guy. So
silly French.
Fun fact.
Which the French helped us.
Yeah.
When was it invented, did it say?
The precursor to the mini ball was created in 1848.
Oh, so that's actually quite a while.
So it was a little bit after...
yeah, I thought they used it in the Revolutionary War, so they must not have.
No, I don't think they used the mini ball. But
they did wear it. They did use it. They wore it too.
They wore it?
Yeah.
What the are you talking about?
I don't know anymore.
Ricky's on his own.
I'm delirious.
Yeah. So
he's on his own level.
So 18 what?
1848. So I'm guessing it was
slightly predates the metallic cartridge, but actually no.
I thought it was way before that. That's the precursor to the mini ball.
Mm-hmm. See, look, even we learn things. Well,
it might not have been what known as the mini ball.
When did they introduce the riflings though?
It was the 1700s, I think.
Late 17.
Yeah, it was the Revolutionary War, and so what the rifling does. So you stabilize that bullet. They're shooting the Brown Bess, the British, which is a smoothbore musket. But their accuracy, I mean, you might be accurate at 20 yards with that thing. With the Kentucky long rifle, we're reaching out and touching at 50 yards.
Yeah.
So we at that point became snipers. That in conjunction with many other things, but namely guerrilla warfare, as we see in the movie The Patriot.
Sure, is what was a huge... chivalry was not existent on our side. We understood the point of winning and understood the
we could stand there
threat of losing.
Well, and we weren't as trained as the British military. So if we stood there, we were losing the war. When we were trying to stand there and fight like the British, we couldn't compete. They were the top military in the world. We didn't have the manpower to do it, and so we're standing there in line, and we're like...
Yeah, you have to remember that
to abandon that.
Battle back in the day was two armies standing at each other, marching and firing volleys of fire at each other, and just continuing to march forward until it devolved into hand-to-hand combat with bayonets.
And what were those guys called in the front?
What?
Cannon fodder. Did you not... You ever heard that before?
I have heard that before, yeah.
Well, they rotated, though. Didn't they have three lines? When this guy ran out of bullet, he would go back to the back and unload?
But the guys in the front knew it could be a really bad day for them if there was artillery.
I remember seeing and I'm basing all my history on the movie The Patriot. But watching that, like the cannonballs rolling across the ground and then taking these guys' legs off.
Yep. And so... after we realized that, the standard facing each other, traditional, honorable, I guess you would call it at that time, way of doing warfare was not really working out. So, just like in the Patriot, they hid and made ambushes and quick, hit and run kind of situations, and also, shooting officers, which was a no-no back in the day. But it was, the stakes were too high. It was to defend your homeland and, get that independence, which
at this point is we're going to get it at whatever cost we need to. And if you guys want to call us weenies and we're not fighting fair, you know what? At least you're not on our country. You're not.
That's Ricky's message to the British right now.
Yeah, that's right.
Call us weenies, thanks.
Understanding that we are now allies. So
after the Revolutionary War, what did we go to after that in terms of firearms in the military?
Well, you still had muzzle loaders, but then they went to cap, right?
Okay, so that's important. So what they used to use back in the Revolutionary War is flintlocks. Actually, look up on your... Mark's the only one with a computer, so I guess Steve has a smartphone, but...
Yeah, Ricky doesn't believe in smartphones.
Yeah.
Nope.
Percussion cap, I can't remember if it came during the end of the Revolutionary War. I think the percussion cap was invented after the Revolutionary War, but...
it was 1800.
Yeah, so...
Which was leaps and bounds.
Yeah.
Because you had
it's
problems...
It's basically a primer that you stick on the nipple.
But think about it, they had, and a little after that, they started using paper cartridge, right? But when they were having to ramrod stuff down, and if their powder got wet, or if they forgot to close the hood of the pan, it was a problem.
Yeah, you have to clean it out.
Yeah, and let's talk about that for 1 second, because it's not just the firearm itself that advanced with time. It was the ammunition that changed the design of firearms, because talking about like the Brown Bess and the flintlock and everything, you actually had to pour gunpowder into a pan, and then you had to cock the hammer back or the flint back,
which is a piece of rock.
Yeah, it's just a rock, and then the flint would cause that spark.
Flint and steel. That's really what it was.
So just like starting a fire, where you cause a spark and then the fire starts, except you're lighting gunpowder off right in your face.
Yeah.
And it's black powder. It's not smokeless powder. Yeah. So that's how it all started, was with that.
And can you imagine warfare at a time like that?
All smoky.
Where it took a fast rifleman would be probably
1.5 minutes.
Yeah. I think a fast guy could probably do 60 seconds on a reload. And then you have 40 guys shooting at you at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're standing in a line shoulder to shoulder with people.
That's why you did have people standing beside, if it was just a single person and you had enough arms to be able to have a loader, and he would just hand you the rifle, and then so you're just sending rounds down range.
And that was the point of the volley, was to keep suppressive fire all the time.
Because you could only shoot one at a time, or the rifleman could only shoot one at a time, so... But then, you moved to a percussion cap. There were more... It was all still muzzle loading, so like you said, you had to ram the gunpowder and the bullet down into the barrel, whether that was a one projectile together or like a wad, I think they called it. But they were doing that all the way up into the Civil War. Yeah. So it didn't really change much. They were like they went from a flintlock to percussion cap, which is basically just like a primer, right?
It's just a primer. So
think about that for a second, just real quick. Rifling the rifles they used at the end of independence, all the way into the Civil War. Like some of those things had seen an amazing amount of duty, and they were still running.
They get converted.
Yeah, they were starting to convert them.
So we'll talk about it in a little bit, but yeah. So on the side of a rifle, flintlock or percussion cap, you have what you call the lock. That's the trigger. See if you guys can hear this. Let me.
Ricky has the
hammer. Sorry,
old musket style, or is it a rifle?
Rifle. So yeah, this one has rifling in it. It's 45 caliber. Listen to this. There we go. You guys like that noise, right?
Absolutely. Everybody does.
So on this one, I have a percussion cap. But on the flintlock, you had, instead of a hammer, you have I guess it's still the hammer, but you have the hammer holding a piece of flint. And it comes forward and oh my gosh. I forgot the word that they use for that steel, that it's something with an F. Anyway, the frizzen, I think they called it. You had this frizzen, this piece of steel that you flop down in front, and that flint comes forward and shaves off that metal, creating a spark. Those sparks land in the pan, what you guys were talking about, and you had a different kind of powder in the pan versus in the actual bore. That pan lights with that powder, and it goes through what we call a flash hole that's inside this going into the bore. Then it lights the rest of that powder, and then by expansion pushes that round down range.
Right.
The percussion cap, they gave it this little nipple instead of a pan, and instead of the frizzen, and you put your percussion cap, which is basically a primer. It's an old school primer that you would see now in your centerfire rifle cartridges, things like that. Pistol
components
cartridges
are a little different, but it's
yeah,
same gist.
same concept.
So,
you put that over the nipple, then the hammer, which is actually a true hammer now, comes down and ruptures that chemical, that flash, into the flash hole, and that's what ignites the gunpowder. A lot more, because what they had with the flintlock is what you call a flash in the pan.
Mm-hmm. And that's where that comes from.
Yeah, so it's just the pan flashing, but it doesn't ignite the actual powder inside the gun.
Yeah.
Well, and God forbid if it got wet or if it was rainy or something like that, you're not going to have a functioning rifle. With a percussion cap, you're going to have a better chance of it to fire, even if it's raining or wet or whatever, because it's all self-contained.
And that was the appeal of percussion, because then it changed warfare again.
Yep. And then after the percussion cap, then you have people converting. So they're taking these old guns, and now they're starting to load in metallic cartridges.
Paper cartridge first.
Oh, paper cartridges, yeah.
Yeah, metallic cartridge didn't show up until early 1800s or mid 1800s, but the paper cartridge, that was early 1800s.
Yeah, so
European idea. They smart Europeans.
And so all you're doing is at that point is you're putting the percussion cap on the paper cartridge, correct?
Everything was self-contained.
Yeah, so you had
the black powder, and it's just like our bullets we have now, only it was black powder.
Mm-hmm. And it was paper instead of brass.
Yeah.
And then eventually what they did was they went from paper to oiled paper because, like I said, getting it wet or if it rained or whatever, if you got your paper cartridge wet, you were kind of screwed.
Yeah, and then in the Civil War, you had ladies, because warfare was not a woman's job, but they did have women rolling paper cartridges over and over and over. And think of what they were exposed to. Trying to, I'm sure they all had some weird diseases by the time their short life was over. But there was no oversight as far as any kind of public health worries. But yeah, so you had these women rolling these paper cartridges as fast as they can and getting them shipped off to the troops, north or south. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah. So you had these rifles just being converted. So you had these one-off rifles that had seen, at this point, maybe 100 years of service, or at least 100 years of being around, and now they're redesigned to accept these cartridges, where you just flip open the top of the
trap door, or like the sharps, a falling block, which I have a sharps, and I love that gun. Then you were able to put large amounts of powder, different kinds of powder, and a pretty heavy projectile coming down range.
That falling block is strong.
Because you're going now from muzzle loading to breech loading, right? So just like an over-under shotgun or a side-by-side shotgun where the barrel flips out of the way and then you can actually load your cartridges in that way.
Yeah. And like Ricky is saying, those were such a strong chamber. They were able to hold an immense amount of pressure. So a lot of even the modern guns now that they use for hunting large game, African game or whatever, are breech load still.
Oh yeah,
because the design is just that much stronger to hold the concussion and the explosion of that large caliber, which is, I mean, those get up there. What is it, like 750 nitro or something? Is
ridiculous
for elephant guns or what have you.
Still a squirrel gun.
Still a squirrel gun. There's going to be no squirrel left.
One day I'll bring Quigley is what I call it. I'll bring my sharps out and I'll let you guys shoot it. It's a cool gun if you haven't shot one.
What caliber did he shoot again?
45-70. I was gonna buy.
Well, it was converted though, wasn't it?
No, mine's.
No, his
was a 45-110.
110. Yeah,
which
so
is
it's just a longer casing.
Which is a black powder. I almost bought a 45-110. Actually, his was I think maybe a 120. I almost bought the 45-90.
So that's like a really long cartridge.
It is ridiculous. Yeah. But you get to the 45-110s and the 120s, you're looking at black powder, and I didn't want to deal with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and black powder, I remember, is smoky.
Yeah.
Not really healthy. And
corrosive.
I mean,
it's super cool though.
I've never shot a black powder rifle.
It's cool, and you have all this smoke. I like it. But they're a pain in the rear end to clean. They're actually easier to clean than a normal gun, but this one, you have to take it out of the stock And so you can actually just clean it with
Dish soap, isn't it?
dish soap. Like
Really?
Yeah. And then you season it like you would your cast iron pan at home. I use what we call, it's called boar butter. And that's how you season your barrel.
No way.
Yeah.
It's pretty interesting.
Same way a cast iron pan is seasoned.
So you can fry an egg on your musket.
That's right.
So that kind of brings us to the Civil War, which is really where a lot of, I think, firearms technology started to really come into play, because then you have the revolver, the Colt
Lever
Navy
actions.
and lever action.
Yeah, and a lot of those, and I may be wrong, but it seems like I remember that a lot of that stuff, metallic cartridge in the beginning was only rimfire, which I believe
It probably was,
the 22 caliber rimfire is the oldest.
But how did you
metallic
do
design?
How did you do rimfire? Well, so rimfire wasn't paper cartridge; that was center fire. How would you fire off the paper cartridge?
I don't remember.
See, I'm not boned up on that.
Somebody driving around was like, "You guys are. This is a stupid episode."
You guys know nothing about history.
Yeah.
We didn't say it would be the official guide to American military firearms history, but it's.
Do I look?
And Mark is just kind of inventing this as we go, because he's just asking us questions as we go.
Do I look like Larry Potterfield from Midway USA? No.
Well, they
No.
can't see you. Maybe you do.
Maybe I do.
That's right.
You don't have glasses.
If I do look like Larry Potterfield, then he's a sexy man.
I saw him in Dallas.
So he is good looking, is what you're saying.
He stood out in the crowd.
Is that Steve? No, that's Larry Potterfield.
Oh yeah, it's like basically the same person. So, but yeah, it goes from paper cartridges and oiled or waxed paper cartridges to the actual metal, brass cartridge that's self-contained. Everything's in there.
Yeah.
And that goes to center fire. Civil War brought on the lever action and the revolver as well, and that's kind of where it's kind of been since.
So when Winchester caught up and those Colt, those guys caught up to understanding mechanics and how to, the repeating rifle was leaps and bounds. You could load your gun on Monday and shoot all week. Is what they said. I think that's what it was, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Load your gun on Sunday and shoot all week, Monday or whatever.
Yeah.
But that's pretty amazing.
Well, and you look at that, though, and you look at these designs. Now, granted, there are people that were... I'm not taking away the ingenuity and the engineering of what these people like that designed the lever guns and stuff like that. But then you have John Browning come along. And John Browning, I see it as he took us out of the Stone Age of firearms and brought us into the...
We could do 3 or 4 episodes of just Browning design.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Concept.
It's
because there's still so many of his designs in use today.
Machine guns, gas operated, short recoil systems, the now modern handgun, the way that operates. I mean, there's just
pretty much every modern gun can be traced to Browning.
There's some sort of influence, if nothing else.
And then he
from
died,
John Browning.
and then it's all kind of just...
Yeah, nothing's really evolved since then.
Yeah,
and you get some pretty cool, I guess, innovations as far as maybe changing some of the concepts or design, but there's nothing
it's all
substantial.
based on what he brought out.
Sure. I mean, you think of the 1911 or anything before that, even the high power, I guess that came after, but they can't improve on it.
No. And there's still people choosing to carry the 1911 on in the military.
Sure.
Because they feel it's superior to... Now, granted, I think ballistic science has come leaps and bounds from what it was. So projectiles, cartridges, all
ammunition,
just as a whole that's gone crazy.
But then, like you say, you look at the 1919 or the Ma Deuce.
Mm-hmm. Ma Deuce is still being used.
Yeah.
So you have a 1911.
Nothing has changed on that gun.
Yeah.
Maybe the composites of the metal.
Well, you have some like his original. You had to screw it in. Now you have the quick change barrels. But other than that, I mean, there's been a few design.
Yeah,
it's just little incremental things, or things get lighter or tougher or what have you. But
it makes me wonder who is the next Browning.
Yeah,
they could have been born already.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
we're hard at work right now.
Yeah,
you never know.
So a little bit of history with John Browning is his father was also a gunsmith in Nauvoo, and actually before Nauvoo, Illinois, he was a gunsmith. I can't remember what state he came from, but John Browning was born in Utah. So
yeah, Morgan.
Yep. So
And yes, he was a Mormon.
he was Mormon.
Yeah.
Yep.
In fact, there's a funny story on, and I don't know if it was the A3. As he served as a missionary, he was somewhere back
Oh yeah,
east.
definitely. Yeah, all his companions on a mission, they said that he was weird. Like he was always drawing stuff out, and he had this way of like.
Yeah, he would imagine everything going together.
And he would be like have his hands up in the air, like trying to
Piece everything together.
in his brain, like fit stuff together. And
Well,
he was on his mission doing that.
He went into a gun store or a shop, or I guess who knows what was it?
Probably a general store.
Yeah, general store. And there was one of his designs, shotgun designs, up on the wall that the guy was selling, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the guy knew that these were Mormons. It was pretty obvious who Mormons were back then, right? And they were the weird ones. I'm a Mormon, so I can call us weird. He goes up there, and he's like, "Hey, let me see that shotgun." And the shopkeep's like, "Yeah, okay." So he gives him the shotgun, and he's like, "Do you even know what that is or how to use it?" And Browning tears the thing all the way apart and explains how every part works and goes together, puts it back together, and gives it back to him. The guy's astonishment, and I don't even think he told him who he was.
Yeah,
He just did it.
Yeah,
Oh, and it was his design.
his design. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and how he kind of got started is he was in the shop with his dad, and his dad was gunsmith. And his dad did some pretty revolutionary designs on his own right. Nowhere near what his son did, but John Browning,
Still
it was his
held his
father. John Moses Browning is the son, but John Browning, he actually had this cool slide action, so you could load the cartridges in a gun and then just slide. So kind of like a magazine, if you think of that, but you're just sliding it over, or a little bit like the revolver, I guess.
Okay.
Only it's straight, and you're just sliding it across with your
Running a
fingers.
stick across.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And it was just a big metal block with holes cut in it, and you're just sliding those cartridges to advance them.
So it's still technically kind of repeating.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's kind of a cool thing. And but anyway, so he was in the shop with his dad, and he said, "Dad," and he tore another person's gun apart, another designer. I can't remember if it was Winchester or something, but he's like, "Dad, I could build a better gun than this." And,
Well, I thought it was
And so he did.
Smith, I thought.
a Smith & Wesson.
Yeah,
it
'cause
might have been.
They
Yeah.
hated each other.
Yeah.
Colt Smith and Browning, they all hated each other.
Yeah. Well, it might have been. And so he's like, I could build a better gun than this. And his dad's like, well, why don't you? And that's what started him in his gunsmithing.
And so he did.
Yeah, he did.
And thankful for Browning, he created the gas-operated system and the recoil. Did he not? I think he created the recoil system.
Oh, as far as short recoil,
Yeah.
all of that, because before that, it was lever guns and revolvers.
And so, which paved the way for Eugene Stoner and a lot of the new modern guys. And if you guys don't know who Stoner was, he was the original designer of
the AR-15.
Yeah. Well,
We're jumping
the
ahead a little bit.
M16, but
M16,
Yeah.
yeah. But the AR-15 platform.
the the FN too.
He moved
Fabrique Nationale.
when he moved to Belgium.
Yeah, Fabrique Nationale was, I mean, they were on their way out. They were facing
They needed
bankruptcy,
something.
and John Browning went there, and actually he died on the floor while working on a gun or a concept. And
Really?
yeah, he was out there. I think he died of a heart attack. He saved FN, and you see what FN is now.
Makes you wonder what concepts or something was in his notebooks
Oh.
that maybe there's something out there that...
Well, and actually
They never got made.
they still have like kind of, because he used to, this shows how ingenious he was. He would whittle stuff out of wood before he turned it on
Oh,
a
really?
machine and everything. He would whittle out of wood a complete gun, like the superposed shotguns
Yeah.
that he designed was wood. It was a wood block, and then he would fit the action together with wood.
That's
Kind of like
wild.
what we would do with 3D printing nowadays. He did it with wood.
With wood. Well, yeah,
not-
what else do you have to kind of make a prototype of?
yeah.
So, but we're jumping ahead a little bit with that, but
Which way you got excited about Browning, man?
well, there's
Help it.
plenty of reason to get excited about John Browning. But after the Civil War and lever guns, bolt actions came into popularity.
So we go to Springfield.
So we go to Springfield, the model 1903, which is a pretty great rifle in its own right.
Well, and the bolt action is good because now you could be in the prone position. The lever gun, what was the problem is you're in the prone position, but you have to cycle that lever.
The action's below, at the bottom of the,
and so
of the rifle.
The ground.
And we know that there's other guns that were bolt guns before the 03 Springfield. We may have pirated some stuff from other countries for the Springfield. We paid royalties to Mauser because
Mauser's great.
We stole some design properties
from the Germans.
And people still use the Mauser 98 actions, super strong actions.
Oh, yeah.
For building custom rifles.
Very accurate. It was an effective war implement. It did see a lot of action for a very long time. You think of 1898 up until World War II and beyond.
And through World War II. Because the snipers would use them, long range.
Yeah.
Because it's bolt action, so it's going to be inherently more accurate, I would say, than a semi-automatic.
A little bit stronger. Yeah. So semi-automatic, and you have the way they're designing the ARs or the AR platform guns now. They're pretty accurate. I mean, you could be really accurate with those things.
Yeah, and you'll get some argument, and I'm sure we already got guys saying, "Oh, bolt gun is far superior to any kind of gas gun."
Well, it's all kind of caught up now. It's all kind of a level playing field.
Yeah, you can lock those two halves together, the upper and the lower, pretty strong to where there's really no flex. The problem with it, with what they used to have back in the day, is those guns started unlocking before versus a bolt action. You sent that round down range. Yeah, it's long down range before you start unlocking that bolt.
The dwell time.
Yeah.
The dwell time was up to the shooter.
Yeah.
Not up to the recoil and gas.
Yep. So they've done some stuff with the unlocking and the gas system and stuff, and they're pretty accurate.
But bolt guns are still pretty cool.
They are. They're awesome.
And they've been around for a long time. Even before that was the Mosin Nagant was a cool military bolt gun in Russia, and the Mauser in Germany.
And all those guns proved their weight in the battlefield. I have a Nagant. I like that gun. You have everything. I like that gun. I don't shoot it very much, but I got it for dirt cheap back a few years ago when they were starting to get in surplus. Dirt cheap.
Yep.
I didn't know what to expect. I took it out to the desert, and I was.
They're accurate.
Iron sights, dropping clays. It was kind of sloppy. It's not a super tight gun. It kicks like a mule.
Yeah, it sure does.
We shot my friends, and I was out with open sights at 150 yards.
We were dropping clays 150, 200 yards open sight. I was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, I have a Mosin Nagant. That was the first gun I ever bought. It was a Mosin Nagant because I wanted to learn how it worked, and I figured it was super cheap. I think it was like $110.
I won't tell you
on
what I paid
surplus.
for mine.
Less than 110?
Absolutely.
Oh, man.
50. Was that back when they had them in the barrels and you could just buy them out of the barrels?
$72 or something.
Yeah.
Dang. Yeah, mine was 110. But yeah, that's how I learned how kind of everything fits together. Took it apart. Thankfully, I had references online to check or whatever. But a bolt gun is how I learned how firearms work.
Yeah, my only complaint is just the lack of real options. There's not a lot of options to upgrade it. I don't want to put an Archangel stock or any of that stuff on. I want to keep it traditional,
and putting a scope on it, you have to have the side mount scope.
Yeah, I've seen things go terribly wrong when people drill their own into the action, and it could turn out pretty tragic.
Just bad news. Yeah. But I would totally own a Springfield too.
Oh, if I could. The 03, I had a buddy that had one, and we shot it. I could not believe the accuracy out of that old gun. And his was an old gun. Mm-hmm. He'd bought it at a pawn shop. It was some kid's grandpa's issued firearm that he brought back from the war. Needed money, probably wanted to buy beer or something, and pawned the gun off. And my buddy picked it up for, I don't remember what it was. It was cheap.
Yeah.
This was probably 15, 20 years ago now, but yeah. Unbelievable. I was really surprised on how accurate that gun was.
Well, and that kind of brings up an interesting point about the American tradition of firearms is that if you're collecting certain firearms, well, any, I guess, but you are collecting history.
Absolutely.
A Springfield 1903, an original is over 100 years old, almost 115. Well, 115 years old this year.
Yeah, the original patent. Yep.
Yeah, and going into the next gun too, the greatest battle implement ever devised is an M1 Garand. That quote was from Patton, by the way.
Well, he was a badass.
He sure was. But that's, you are collecting history, or even like the muskets. That is part of an American history kind of thing.
Well, and we've talked about it before. Like, I like the mechanics of guns, not just the look, because I think even black guns, AR type stuff, I think they can be a beautiful piece of art.
They can be works of art, yeah.
But you get to those older ones, the Springfields and Old Bess or whatever you want to call it. The mechanics is what it really intrigues me, and then I think about the people that designed the machines that built the guns, and that is even more intriguing to me.
The machines to make the firearms. But yeah, somebody had to figure out how all this stuff worked.
Yeah.
And when you're holding an old, Brown Bess musket or even a Henry repeating rifle or anything like it, or an old Winchester, it's all
or a BAR or
it's history.
Man, it's amazing. Thompson, there's another gun we didn't talk. Maybe we'll talk about submachine guns. I don't know. The Thompson, what a silly, amazing, simple gun.
And that was what was the
auto ordnance?
Auto ordnance was that. But that's
off of a short recoil system.
I was going to say
it wasn't Maxim. Who was that guy that designed it? Was that a Maxim design?
I'm not sure.
I thought the Browning was influenced by John Browning in one way or another.
Let's look at.
But there's the M1 Garand. Well, we're in World War II now, so the M1 Garand, the BAR, the Browning automatic rifle, and the Thompson submachine gun.
Which I find that gun, that is a bucket list gun for me.
The BAR?
Not to own, but to shoot. So if you guys have one and want to bring it to the range.
Well, we could probably find one.
Oh,
we need a BAR on the wall.
That gun.
That's also 30-06, isn't it?
06, yeah. So there's Ohio Ordnance is making a reboot of it that's kind of updated, and it's really cool, but it's like $7,000. But it's
yikes!
It has the
cool.
bipod and everything.
It's not the traditional looking BAR, but it is freaking cool.
Yeah. So they redesigned it a little bit to make it modernized.
It still functions the exact same way. The bolt's the same, but the outside.
I mean, you could buy a BAR hunting rifle.
Yeah, totally different though.
Yeah,
totally different.
No, you want like the combat style World War II with the
actual
bipod
machine gun.
Didn't it have like a short and a fast full auto system too? That wasn't there.
Rate.
Yeah, you could change the rate of fire. I think.
Yeah, and there's several guns where you can do that. As you just turn something out on the gas. You can adjust
on the
tube and the op rod and all that. You can.
Okay, so I guess it was John.
Change the.
But yeah, the M1
was it?
John Thompson. I was thinking that Maxim had something to do with that. I guess not.
He might have borrowed some design ideas or something like that from Maxim, but we didn't talk about Hiram Maxim, did we?
Nah, what an interesting machine gun.
Yeah, the Maxim machine gun, which is an American design. That was the machine gun on the big wheels, and you just turn.
No, you're thinking of the Gatling gun.
The Gatling gun. I'm sorry. Yeah.
The Maxim was an automatic, and I believe he was German.
Yeah. I think that was English. The Maxim machine gun.
See what we know.
Well, our history. Yeah, our history is.
I'm pretty sure that was
great.
English because that was what the English were using.
And then you think.
And you had the fabric links on it and everything.
Yeah. We were talking about the BAR, and it made me think of our boys back in Germany trying to fight, and they needed something to carry around, and the bar, .6 is a pretty substantial round, but its counterpart, the MG42, it didn't hold a candle to the MG42, which had an amazing cyclical rate. Like, you watch
800
videos,
rounds a minute or something.
You watch videos now, and just the sound, and even our troops knew the sound. They knew.
They call it a buzzsaw because that's what it sounded like.
It was
well.
Vicious.
A lot of those were Americans slowed our cyclic rate down because we were accurate. But those other foreign guns, they were like, like burning through that ammo.
Yeah. And what was the 9mm one that the troops carried? The German troops.
A P-38. Oh, the MP40?
Yeah, the MP40. That's what I've shot one of those, and it's way slow but super controllable.
Really,
that is a beautiful piece of art.
I feel like World War II guns are almost on like everybody's bucket list.
Yeah,
I mean they're so iconic. Video games, movies, everything.
Look up the Maxim.
Yeah, Ricky.
Because I'm like frustrated that those people out there are like,
Hiram Maxim was an American-born British inventor.
okay. So it was
so it's a little bit of
English. So we should have given that caveat before we started this episode.
We're idiots.
That we're not historians. We're just three guys that got together and decided to talk about stuff.
Yeah, we're just going through our own personal, what we know history of, which is clearly not much.
No.
But we're learning along with them, right?
Yeah. And
Along with the audience.
Hopefully this actually, what I think the point of this episode is to spur you to go explore something that you're interested in. Maybe, you didn't know that much about lever guns, so you can go research a little bit more about lever guns or about the Brown Bess, in the Revolutionary War that people would take British guns and that's what they had on hand and that's what they used.
And here's something nice to think about too. If you thought about doing something with black powder, you don't have to go through a NICS check to buy a powder gun. You don't.
Oh, yeah.
It's not serialized. So you can buy parts off the internet. You can have stuff shipped straight to your house, and you can put that gun together.
Yeah, something that's cool. And actually, the one I have here was a kit by Connecticut Valley Arms, Connecticut Valley Arms, I think, CVA. And they're still making stuff, but you can buy these kits and put your own muzzle loader together, your own flintlock, your own percussion cap, whatever you want.
And there's
It's
different
awesome.
levels of it too. You can just buy a kit you put together and that's it, or you can buy it to where there's some fitting, or you can just go all out and make that your gun.
Yeah, people go all out with black powder. There's a whole kind of community about that.
And if you don't want to do necessarily all the machining on the stock, you can get all, like we said, you can get all this stuff, but you can have somebody do what we call a semi-fitted blank of curly maple is what you would want to use as curly maple because of the figure. And then you have them send that to you, and it's roughly fitted, but you'll just have to do the fine fitting.
Which is still a little bit of work, but it's kind of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it makes it your own.
It's yours. Actually, we should make a class.
You want to?
Yeah, that would
black
be
powder
awesome.
rifle
Would you guys
class?
be interested in doing a class?
That
Let
would
us
be
know.
pretty cool. A black powder,
A black powder rifle class.
even though we can't shoot them here on the range.
Well, maybe you can maybe make an exception.
Make an exception for that class. That would be a cool class. I think people would like that.
I know
That'd be-
I know the range manager.
Yeah.
You just offer it once a year on the 4th of July.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be a cool
Yeah,
That could be a cool
nostalgic
class.
we might
Yeah.
all be onto something. Anyway, back to Maxim.
So that was Hiram Maxim was early 1900s, but he created the first fully automatic weapon, and then just kind of went from there.
Nice.
But yeah, so World War II.
I actually shot a Maxim machine gun.
Well, World War One even.
It's
World War I, the machine gun was used. Yeah, there were all kinds, and that spawned all different kinds of designs. I mean, they were water cooled, and
what's cool about the Maxim machine gun though is that it's on wheels. It looks like a cannon, like it would be a cannon,
And then this big tube
and it's a
on the
machine
front.
gun. Yeah. And what they probably did is, well, this is how we used to mount cannons. We still have the
Let's do
old
the same thing.
chassis for it.
Well, like
might
Let's
as
put
well,
it on
yeah.
Like the
chassis.
Gatling gun, right?
Yeah.
it's on the same deal. It
crank.
looks like, yeah.
Other than that, Gatling used multiple barrels. Where
Isn't it that technically you can still own a Gatling gun
Absolutely.
without? It's not a machine gun because it's separate individual firing.
It's operated
mechanisms
by a hand crank.
by
yeah.
hand.
Yep.
So all you're doing is just basically shooting multiple guns.
I remember a very large outdoor store had one in Lehigh. Very large. That now is no longer, but still by name.
Had a Gatling gun.
Yeah. And 38 special. How cool would that be?
we should get a Gatling gun.
Why not?
They don't feed very well.
Yeah, because you load them from the top and they're
Big stick mag goes in the top.
gravity fed.
Well, actually, fun fact too about that with the Gatling gun. The Gatling gun multiple barrel system was inspiration for the minigun,
Yep.
Which is super cool too.
which is
The
insane.
minigun, I've shot one of those too.
Really.
They're
Burp.
yeah, it's fun, but
Talk
it's-
about a fast rate of fire.
yeah, it's over and done with, and you're like, well, that was great. They don't recoil. Any,
Does it even feel like shooting a gun, or is
no,
it?
Not to me. It was cool. The coolest part is seeing the dust in the back on the berm because it's so fast that
You've seen Dylan Precisions.
Yeah.
They have the ones mounted in the Suburban.
Yeah, they can flip
man.
over.
One of our customers.
And those are small. Those are tiny.
One of our customers got to go hang out over there, and he shot it out of the Suburban. And that thing is just that car is beat up,
beat to pieces. Yeah, that's what
I mean. And think about all the brass that you're gonna have at your feet.
Yeah, he said there was inches, thick of brass just everywhere.
Yeah. See, and I could imagine trying to be that driver. You're trying to evade, and you have brass raining down over the windshield, and
just turn the wipers on.
Yeah,
That's what they're there for.
It's raining freedom. What do you expect?
So yeah, after World War II, obviously the M14 came about, and which was kind of a derivative of the M1 Garand, right?
Yeah, similar.
But that
Gas operated.
That didn't last too terribly long because
you're going into the
Eugene Stoner came.
Yeah, so there was
around.
If you want to see, and I can't remember the name of the documentary, but there was a lot of politics between the Mini 14 and the M16 in use in Vietnam, and after that a lot of interior political conflict,
people that didn't want it,
and it was we had a lot of problems.
Yeah, nobody wanted the AR-15 initially,
but some of that was intentional.
What was?
Some of the failure was intentional
to make it look bad.
So the Mini 14 would
the M14.
The M14 would come into play.
Well, and the philosophy back in the day was because of what World War II was the large caliber, long range, accurate.
They didn't like
shots.
the idea of an intermediate cartridge. They wanted large
caliber, long range, long distance cartridges because they wanted to A, conserve ammo, and they B, also, the engagements in World War II were much longer distances normally.
Yeah.
Than
once we got into guerrilla warfare, and we all know and understand, everybody knows the AK. It's on many communist flags across the world, and probably the most used war implement in history, taken more lives than anything else. And
the AK?
And more recreated than any other firearm. Who knows how many hundreds of millions of AKs are out there.
I've got one.
I had one. I sold it. I liked it.
It's fun. It's a fun gun to shoot.
But so we're battling a 30 caliber with a 22 caliber, and there was a lot of heartburn over it.
Yeah, and so they had to kind of. I don't remember the history completely, but yeah, there were military trials and tests, and nobody thought it was a real serious contender. But I think there was some higher up that believed in it.
I watched this documentary on it, and this was quite a while ago. That's why I don't remember any of it. But it was kind of intriguing to see the pushback, even from the federal government.
Right.
Well, the War Department, honestly.
But now, it's America's most popular rifle, has been for
a very long time.
A long time. So it's been in the military's use for 50 years.
So this is what it says. It says, based on World War II experience, this is the M14. Based on World War II experience, the U.S. Army needed more ammunition, increased firepower, and greater adaptability. Unfortunately, the Americans spent 12 years and millions of dollars and ended up with a barely improved Garand.
Well, it was basically an improved Garand, magazine fed instead of a clip.
Which you don't have that clip coming out, and that was a big thing back then.
Yes, we said clip.
Because it's an actual clip.
Because you had that clip come out and make that cling noise, and to the enemy, that was hey, they're out of ammo.
We're out of ammo. But
but then we caught on to it
with the bigger cartridge.
Throwing them.
With the bigger cartridge of the 30 caliber cartridge, firing that on full auto, just like a BAR, it's hard to handle.
Well, and it wasn't a very big magazine either.
Yeah, it was 10 maybe, I think, in the M14.
What does it say there?
What's that?
How big is the mag capacity on the 14? I think it's 10.
20.
Oh, see, we're stupid. 20. Yep. That's what I said. 2 10s.
Yeah, times 2.
Yeah.
But yeah, so then the AR-15 gained...
I can just hear people, this is terrible. I can't believe they published this podcast.
Hopefully we're just entertaining because we don't... We at least we show our stupidity. At least we're not masquerading as experts.
I wear it on my sleeve, my friend.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, the AR-15 came about and
That
became.
right there, I love that gun.
What are you pointing at?
The M2 carbine.
Oh, the carbine.
Oh,
What
okay.
a
And one thing we didn't talk about is the Enfield as well.
Oh yeah, Lee Enfield. Doesn't
So
Like I said, we didn't go over every single
no, there's no way.
gun, but yeah,
We're not even smart enough to talk about the ones we have talked about.
yeah, we barely scratched through with that. So, but that kind of brings us to the present day, you know, and if you go through the history of America, that most of the time, if not all the time, the firearms and the weapons that the military are using have been available for civilians to own.
Well, we talked a little bit about the bolt action guns. We were talking about bolt guns. Every hunting rifle now, you had guys sporterizing, bringing their Mausers or whatever back from the war, and then sporterizing them for their own use. So when you think about, military guns, they shouldn't be allowed for civilian use. They have been in civilian use from the inception of the country.
For hunting, for target shooting, for protection.
Yeah, and recreation. And that's just the way it's been. And we've talked about the Second Amendment and how there's a difference between rights and privileges, and how it does include military. In my opinion, I'm not a scholar or a lawyer, but in my opinion, the Second Amendment does include military grade weapons, because every level of firearm was used at some point in the military use. Everything.
Right. Well, and it's funny because if you think about the term military grade, that makes it sound more serious than it is. It's just really, that just means a firearm is used by the military.
And if you talk to the guys here on the floor, our veterans, you say military grade, they're like, oh no, these are way better than military grade weapons.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think some people think that like mil-spec or anything like that is something that's to be highly regarded and hallowed or whatever, but really it's the cheapest bidder.
Well, and mil-spec is a misconception or misunderstood. So like when you talk about AR-15s being mil-spec, that is just everything in that platform is made to the exact same specifics. There's a standard, so you can use parts across the board.
Yeah,
I can actually talk about the
other than Colt, when some of their early AR platforms had large pin design compared to the small pin that we use now. That's the only real difference. Other than that, everything else is usable, interchangeable.
Yeah, and that's why you can order parts offline from any reputable AR manufacturer and put it together with a bunch of different parts and come up with basically a Franken-style gun.
Yeah, and the AR-10's a different story, so
that is a whole different story.
I can talk about, you talked about going to the lowest bidder. And what's interesting about that is I worked building machine guns.
We have a frog in the studio.
Excuse me.
So yeah, I worked on building machine guns for a while, for foreign and domestic. So U.S. and
foreign militaries.
Yeah, we even shipped machine guns off to Iraq.
You're hideous.
Yeah,
He's part of the problem.
yeah. Not Afghanistan. Not back then, at least. Anyway,
You aided an enemy.
that's right. And Saudi Arabia, we had
Saudis.
guns go out to them. But anyway, so.
Carry on.
But yeah, so we. But when the foreign militaries, they pay money, and they don't care. They say, get us guns. M2 machine guns. Get us those M2s, and they would pay. Millions and millions of dollars for these guns. The U.S. military, it was so frustrating dealing with them, because number one, they want all this paperwork. They want you to run all these tests, but then they open it up to bids. So they say, okay, you guys are all the ones that make this specific gun, and we'll take the lowest bid. Whoever can build these for the cheapest, we're going to go with. Then they get that bid in, and then they open it back up to the two lowest bids, and they say, okay, you guys bid again, and whoever can get it lower is who we'll go with.
Yeah,
So they whittle you down to nothing, and then they want you to go through even more testing than the foreign militaries do. So I can tell you this. The way the government works, and sorry, this is getting a little political, but they end up with less quality stuff because we don't have the time or the energy or the resources to give them that product at the price that they're trying to get it for. Versus foreign militaries, a lot of times they were able to just say, that looks good, go ahead and send it out. So they actually got pretty high quality. And I'm not saying we chinced, but
we're looking for quantity.
Yeah.
Getting as much as possible, and then not necessarily the quality.
Yeah.
Which is, you get the special guys, special force guys. They get some pretty cool stuff, but the general guys, they don't really get a lot.
No, and those guns get beat to pieces. Yeah, they've gone through a lot of testing, but it's like, yeah.
Well, that's one of the reasons, like in history, if you go back to World War II, why the Thompson wasn't carried more, and why the grease gun, the M3 grease gun, which we didn't talk about all that much,
Which is cool,
was used more because it was 10% of the cost to make an M3 grease gun than it was to make a Thompson, because a Thompson back in the day was $300.
Well,
and that was in 1930s, 1940s
and the reason for that is they're machined out of bar stock. Mm-hmm. So it's cheaper to just put something on the lathe rather than the lathe and the mill.
Right.
So,
it's less work too. Less work goes into
less changing tools. And
yeah,
stuff like that.
and I don't know if they had extrusion technology back then, but if you're using pipes and stuff instead of
that's all they did.
Yeah.
It was just piping.
Yep.
And they're just converting it, so it was pretty cheap. Anyway, sorry I got on that political thread, but
it's kind of interesting to
bidding.
It's kind of interesting to get an inside look in how that all works.
Yeah,
it's very frustrating for the inside person.
Yeah.
And then the government guys come in and they nitpick every dang thing that you do, and you're like, can we just ship these guns out, please?
We just want to get it going.
Yeah, because you guys are costing us money at this point. And it got to the point where the owner of the company is like, this is ridiculous. I can't send to our own government because they're costing me money to do it. It makes us money to ship to foreign militaries, but our government whittles us down to nothing.
It's interesting.
And it's frustrating seeing that red tape.
Yeah.
Just get the stupid guns.
Just get them out there, yeah. Well, to close, I think...
Sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
Well, yeah, we're talking about the modern musket now. We're going to close on that? What do you want to talk about?
Yeah, close on the modern musket.
Which is the
AR-15.
America's most popular firearm.
Used by law enforcement, used by military, used by civilians, hunters.
But they're all the same. There's no difference.
They're all black guns.
Yeah, I have a question for you guys.
Please.
When is the first laser gun going to be invented?
China already did it. Did you not see that headline today or the other day?
I didn't see it.
Said it can go up to 1 kilometer and burn flesh.
Really?
Just burn flesh or go through flesh?
Go through. Start things on fire from 1 kilometer away.
What? How far is a kilometer? I hate the BBC because I don't understand. Okay.
It's about 6/10
That's quite far. Jeez.
Laser AK-47.
Yep,
okay, well, that's the future, guys.
Yeah, so then that's going to be the new modern musket is a laser.
Yeah, well, we'll be talking about laser guns.
We're going to use it in the Space Force. So we're
Space Force.
We'll all get standard issue laser guns in the Space Force.
But the problem with that is you can't be shooting off laser guns in the Space Force, because what if you puncture your spacecraft and then all of a sudden you're opened up to the vacuum of space and you get sucked out. Your brains get sucked out and your eyes melt.
He said with experience.
I don't know what the problem is. I don't see it. I don't see the big deal.
So tell me what that term modern musket means to you then.
Well, that was a coined phrase, obviously, just to denote that, we still have guns today and we're going to keep it that way. For me, my modern muskets are, the AR platform, and I love the platform of the AR-15. It is not the military style gun. It may look similar. I don't have 3-round burst or full auto. I don't have anything select fire. I don't shoot armor piercing or incendiary or any of that stuff. Do I think we should be able to afford it and buy it? Absolutely. But yeah, I don't know.
To me, it's a way of us remembering our fathers, our forefathers.
Continuing on with history.
I love hearing that modern musket because it's saying, okay, we haven't lost you and we haven't forgotten you. We haven't forgotten everything that you guys did. Our holiday yesterday, remembering our founding fathers and what they sacrificed. We have military men and women now sacrificing, but also you don't have to be in the military to sacrifice. You just have to raise your voice, be a strength to this country and not a hindrance. Mm-hmm. Promote freedom, and let's keep it.
And I think I talked about this last week. I think it's important as a pro gun, I guess, as people that respect the right of the Second Amendment, be vocal about it so people know who gun owners really are. We're not the crazy people. We're not the NRA specifically. We're the other guy in the office. We're the soccer mom.
Mm-hmm. You're the soccer mom?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
I thought he was Larry Potterfield.
No, not
He's
today.
both, depending on the day.
Yeah. So, but you know what I mean? Just be vocal about it so people, because we're being stereotyped as these awful people that just want to kill kids. Mm-hmm. That we don't care about safety. And obviously, our culture, we understand that's not true. We know who we are, but we're too scared to tell other people who we are because we might be labeled, and nobody likes labels.
Yeah, and how in the world did that happen? Like, I mean, how has it come so far to where you have to hide behind the covers because you're a gun owner? It's like...
Well, that's the interesting thing, because you go back through history, especially way back in the beginning of America's founding, is that everybody needed a firearm to survive, to hunt, to eat.
Well, and that's what some of the, Second Amendment haters say is, well, it was only for hunting. No. Yes and no. Now we can go to the grocery store, but guess what? Guess who takes his gun to the grocery store too? This guy. Mm-hmm. Because society has dropped in such a way that I do worry about me and my family. Yeah. And it's awful.
Well, it's not even about worrying, I would say. It's your personal choice to take responsibility for your own safety and the safety of your family. It's not even necessarily being paranoid or being worried. It's just rather being prepared.
And I'd rather not be a victim. I don't want to be a statistic. And we did some stuff here with some of the local PD several months ago, and they said something that I really liked the phrase that they used. So we often refer to the police and EMS as first responders, right? And this particular officer says, well, yeah, we're the first responders, but you're the immediate responder.
Yep.
So I want to be the immediate responder for my family. Mm-hmm. That's why I have med kits. That's why I keep this stuff around, not because I'm paranoid.
But you're prepared.
Yeah, it's just like wearing a seatbelt or having a fire extinguisher in my house. What is the difference?
It's just
don't put blindfold over your eyes and say, "Oh, this stuff will never happen to me," because I hate facing the facts that it might.
Well, you'll be fooling yourself.
Yeah, be prepared, and hopefully it never happens. Mm-hmm.
But I think having firearms is really part of the rich American tradition, and if you want to celebrate the history of it,
it is a right. And I don't think the Second Amendment will ever be repealed. There's too many people that wouldn't let that happen, and it would just be a difficult task constitutionally. There's other avenues they could take, sure, but I think it's important. As somebody who enjoys shooting, I don't hunt. Doesn't mean I'm against hunting. I just spend my time shooting, not hunting.
Well, that's the other thing about firearms is that there's so many different applications. There's hunting, there's target shooting, there's competitions, and we've gone over all that kind of stuff. And on top of that, too, Chris said when we interviewed Chris from Australia a couple weeks ago, or about a month ago now, he said that the difference is that firearms are woven into the culture of America. Mm-hmm. It's about defending yourself, and that's something that I think has been a part of American history since its inception. Yeah. And so, being a firearm owner is just being a part of that,
and you said,
part of that tradition.
And you called it a tradition, and it is a tradition, but it's a right, not a privilege. It is a right, and it's a guaranteed right. Much like the First Amendment, guarantees our freedom to assemble or to protest or to have religion. The Second Amendment guarantees us that we can protect the First Amendment or the third or the fourth. It gives us the opportunity to fight against any problem.
It's also a culture. So being a part of a community, being a part of a church, being a part of these things, it's nice because it's a culture. And you think of a lot of times, as Americans, we're kind of mutts of a lot of different other nationalities.
A melting pot.
Yeah, we're a melting pot. But what I love about it is, as Americans, we do have, you can say, I'm American. That's my ancestry is American or something. And it brings you a culture. When you love that culture, you love where you came from, keep the culture alive by keeping the things around that help you identify with that culture. And for our culture, like you were mentioning with Chris, it is firearms. Firearms is an integral part of our culture.
And it's really more, I think, what Chris said too is it was more that you are responsible for defending yourself and using, what you need to do. Because like we've said before, a firearm is a tool, and it just so happens to be the tool that you use to defend yourself. Mm-hmm. And I think, you brought up an interesting point about being part of a culture, that there are a lot of cultures around the world that have traditions because they want to keep their culture alive. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think, they, like you said, firearms and being willing to protect yourself and what you hold important is part of that culture.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Keep it alive. Keep it alive.
Yeah.
Don't be scared of who you are. If you're a gun owner, if you're a proud gun owner, don't be scared of it. Don't be embarrassed of it. It's not embarrassing. It's part of being an American.
Right. But I will say, with one kind of caveat to everything, is you don't necessarily want to shove it down people's throats.
No, don't be rude about it.
That's counterintuitive.
Yeah, because that's not going to do you any favors either.
It's just like the guy that goes shopping with the AR-15. That's stupid.
Yeah, you're not doing the firearms community a service.
And I know I'm going to piss somebody off by saying that. That's dumb.
Just like I don't want to be seeing somebody making out in the grocery store and all over each other, maybe even groping each other. I don't want to see that.
I'll stop. I'm sorry.
Be respectful, okay. Right?
I'll do it out in the parking lot.
Yeah, but
you don't want to have stuff shoved down your throat. And without getting into too many political things, there's a lot of people that don't necessarily agree with other people's rights, and even rights that have been recently affirmed. We don't want to be it right in our face, just like firearms. Put it away, hide it, conceal it. If it's a concealed firearm, conceal the stupid thing.
And talk about it. You can talk about it, but you're right. Don't be so blatant that it builds a wall.
Don't be obscene, or don't try to intimidate people with it. It's just
that's called brandishing.
Yeah, well, and it's just like it's just like religion too, where and I won't get too into it, but you have the freedom of religion and the freedom from religion. If you don't want to be religious, that's your choice. And that's up to you, but you have to respect everybody else's choices to do it. It's the same thing with firearms. Is that if you don't want to own firearms, that's fine. It's your choice. But it's if you want to be, I guess, an American, you have to respect other people's choices to do that.
It's a melting pot, and we should be able to be a community.
Well, and that's the thing is we should melt. We should be able to melt and mix. Mm-hmm. But right now, if we don't have the respect, we melt. And we all have layers like water and oil.
And that's one thing that, and you kind of touch on it, and it made me think about it, is getting divided is a problem. So I really despise the terms like African American, Asian American, Hispanic American. No, we're American. Yeah. I just happen to be from a different descent. So what? I'm an American. Why do we have to divide it all up? We don't need to.
No.
Well, and I think people that live here do identify as Americans first. I think just with that, it's maybe part of their culture or part of.
Yeah. And
they want to. It's because that goes into how you want to identify yourself, and they do have the freedom to do that.
And some of that might be culturally too, right? They don't want to forget their heritage, which is fine. I'm
going to identify myself now as a English American. So actually, British Isles American. So that's what I am.
I am 50% German, but
I don't German American.
Yeah, I'm an American. I'm first generation. I'm pretty proud of that. But I enjoy my German heritage. I love bratwurst and I love cheese and that's great.
And Mausers.
Yeah, I do like Mausers actually. Yeah. But I'm not blatant about it. Do I go to the delicatessen down the road? Absolutely, because they have some awesome food. But
not to mention
it doesn't exclude me though, and I don't want to be excluded from my American heritage because I am an American and I love everything this country stood for. And obviously, we've done some things that are terrible and awful, and I understand that. And
Nobody's perfect.
We don't have a perfect past, and I get that. But all in all, we are the greatest country that this world's ever seen, and we've done more good than bad.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we celebrate the 4th of July.
Yes, we do.
Agreed.
So I think we'll close on that.
It kind of took a weird turn at the end, didn't it?
Yeah, but hey, I kind of liked it. Yeah, if you have any comments or you want to yell at Steve or Ricky or myself, email podcast@iishooting.com.
And if by chance maybe you come across this podcast and you're in the Northwest and you've never shot a gun, you have some concerns about guns, you're anti-gun, I would say come see us. We can have a discussion. I like talking to people.
It's not going to be a heated discussion. It's going to be a respectful discussion.
If you're respectful to me, I'll be respectful
as long as
to
they're
you.
not coming in heated. But yeah, even if you're anti-gun, we'd love to come in and just kind of share with you why do we own firearms.
If you want to shoot, I might pressure you a little bit into shooting because it's a totally different experience if you haven't done it and then you do it for the first time. It could be an eye opener.
Yeah.
Anyway, carry on.
Worth it. No, it's worth it to give it a try, even if you're just passing through the area. Come stop by Independence Indoor Shooting. Come check it out.
2749 East Gala Court, Meridian, Idaho.
You can also find us at podcast or email us at podcast@iishooting.com. Find us on Facebook as well at Independence Indoor Shooting, and you can check out the website iishooting.com.
I think Steve should have said that address a little faster, like they do in the medicine of where
The disclaimer?
they're telling you all the ways you can die.
Yeah.
You just say it really fast.
2749 East Gala Court, Meridian, Idaho.
Wow, that was fast.
83642.
But we hope we've at least given you, some kind of...
May cause patriotism.
may cause patriotism.
America.
We hope we've at least given you some food for thought, some things to think about, things to research a little bit, kind of a springboard into American firearms history. And hopefully just giving you a little bit of a context of why firearms are such an integral part of the country's history, of being an American, in light of the 4th of July yesterday.
And you might be surprised how many guns are really out there.
Oh, yeah.
How many guns what?
Gun designs. I should put it that way. How many gun designs
Well, just look at this book.
Well, that's a stupid book.
It's huge.
You can hear the hundreds of pages.
Hundreds. 500 pages.
There's an FAL. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah.
That's why we don't know what we're talking about, guys, because there's too many guns to know about, right?
Too many guns, too many designs all over the place. It's countless.
500 pages.
And if I get asked what my favorite gun is, it's the one that works when I need it to.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll end on that. Thanks for listening.
I thought we ended like 4 times already.
Yeah, I try, but you guys just keep going.
Shut up already.
Yeah.
See you guys.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to Range Minded. If you've got a comment, question, idea for the show, or any feedback, send us an email to podcast@iishooting.com or send us a message on our Facebook page. Just search Independence Indoor Shooting. Again, thanks for listening to Range Minded. We'll see you next time.